With what I dreamed, I knew it couldn't be wrong. It would be done. I was born to the earth. Welcome, y'all. Thanks for joining for the first fertility talk here with me. And we're going to jump in. I got some questions yesterday. I got some questions about PCOS. It was really like a very general question, but I'll go ahead and dive into that. So before I begin, I'll introduce myself to my new followers and my new viewers. I am Sister Freya, and I am a holistic doula. I'm a breastfeeding educator. I'm a certified herbalist and fertility strategist, focusing on womb health and holistic healing. So thank you for joining me, and thank you for opening up your aura to receive some information and dive into a great discussion. It is my intention to produce one of these talks every Friday, going live at 12 noon Central. I don't know where the videos will live after I go live. They may live on YouTube or on Facebook, but be sure to join my email list because that'll be the best way for us to stay in touch. So if you go to RootMama.org and join the email list, or go to RootMama.org and click on contact, that will be the best way to find out about these talks and to find out where the replays will be located. All right. So today's affirmation for healing is, my body is always striving for optimal wellness. So the affirmation of the day is, my body is always striving for optimal wellness. And this is a really important one because, especially when you are actually actively trying to conceive and you're trying each month and you're not able to get pregnant, you can start to feel a certain type of way about your body and what your body is able to do. And you can have a lot of negativity, a lot of resentment, a lot of disappointment, and that does not help the process of getting pregnant. So what we want to do is start to refocus that energy and that thought pattern on something else, which is something more positive, because your body, every single cell, down to the molecules, down to the atoms, down to every fiber of your being, it's always striving to be well. Sometimes your body just needs for you to do something to help it be well. So that is today's affirmation. Yesterday, I received a question from a woman who has been trying on and off for several years to conceive and struggling with PCOS and irregular menstrual cramps and hasn't been able to conceive. So what I would say about that is, just so everybody kind of has a basic understanding of what PCOS is, it's a hormonal imbalance that usually will produce too much testosterone, not enough estrogen, not enough progesterone, and the hormone balance is off. This causes women to skip periods, have long periods, generally to have irregular periods. It also makes cysts grow on the ovaries. Women who suffer from this also can have facial hair. They can have a hard time maintaining their weight. Sometimes they have a hard time sleeping. Sometimes they have breakouts on their skin. It can really manifest in lots of different ways. But when you think about PCOS, think about hormonal imbalance. So one of the things that you can do, one thing that you will see, it's kind of like which came first, the chicken or the egg. Is it my PCOS that's making me overweight, or is the fact that I'm overweight causing the PCOS? It really doesn't matter once you find yourself with PCOS and overweight. It doesn't matter which one came first. You need to start addressing the weight so that you can get some relief from the PCOS. The most dangerous place to carry weight is actually in the midsection, because that is the fat that sits directly on top of all of your vital organs, including your uterus, including your bowels, including your liver, your spleen, your kidneys, all of that, because that the fat that lives in the midsection, it actually has its own ecosystem. The fat itself has its own hormones that it releases into the body. That fat has needs. It wants sugar. It wants starches. It almost like it produces its own hunger to send to the brain to say, hey, give me more of what I want. So you have your stomach that's going to be producing nutrients for bodies, but that fat actually has its own needs, and it's sending out signals to your brain to, hey, give me this, give me that, and this, that, and the third. And so that sits right on the organ systems, and it can mess up your hormones. So sometimes these are women who don't have regular periods or have cysts growing or have with facial hair or breakouts and things of that nature. It's because of that fat that's interfering with your estrogen production and with your progesterone, with your oxytocin, with all these other hormones that, manifest with feminine traits and manifest with regulating your feminine reproductive system. So you want to try to address that as best as you can. And a lot of times when I talk to mothers, it's not that they don't know that they need to lose weight. They know that they need to. That's not a, what do you call it? It's not a brain science. Like, yeah, I know I've had the struggle, but sometimes what the issue is one, yo-yo dieting. I mean, it's 2018 and I still am surprised with the amount of diets that people ask me about. Have you heard of the such and such diet? I'm going on this such and such diet. Well, I'm doing a vegan challenge. I'm doing a fasting challenge. I'm doing a cayenne pepper challenge. I'm doing this. It's positive in that you want to do something healthy for yourself, but it's not positive in that it's not being incorporated in your life for a long-term benefit. It's kind of like a fad. It's something that you want quick results on. It's something that you want to do, but it's not necessarily being rolled out and incorporating in your life that's going to make a major difference for the long term. People think whenever it's about fertility, they just want to talk about the uterus. They just want to talk about the ovaries. They just want to talk about the fallopian tubes. They just want to talk about sex, their vagina, a penis, sperm, and I want to get pregnant. Your reproductive system lives in your body. You know what I'm saying? Everything is connected. You cannot deal with things in isolation. And I think that's where the difficulty comes with trying to explain the holistic way. You cannot just deal with fertility in a isolated way, because your uterus is in your pelvic floor. Your bowels are right above your uterus. So if you are not eliminating properly, if you have leaky gut, if you have irritable bowel syndrome, if you are not, like I said, you're not eliminating, you're not going to the bathroom every day fully multiple times a day, your bowels will prolapse literally on your uterus and can cause a multitude of problems, including tilted uterus, including fibroids growing on your uterus, cysts growing on your uterus, painful periods, scar tissue, a multitude of things. And you're like, well, why should I have to talk about my bowels when I just want to talk about my uterus? Well, your bowels are on top of your uterus. So if your bowels are not healthy, your uterus cannot be healthy. So it's going to be a way of like trying to work through things in one consistent manner. So back to the PCOS. So with the PCOS, it's the hormonal imbalance. That's what it's caused. So we have to figure out what is causing your hormones to be balanced. For a lot of people, they have consistency with their schedule. And that's another thing. They're like, well, I've talked to people a lot of times when I talk to women and they have fertility issues, they work at night. Or they're what they call themselves night owls. And so for my follow-up question is, well, when are you trying to conceive? How long have you been trying? Oh, I've been trying for 5 years. Well, when would you like to get pregnant? I'd like to get pregnant tomorrow. Okay, well, you might have to find another job. you might have to find another job, because there are hormones that everything works in a symphony. You cannot just say, well, I just want to talk about estrogen. That's it. Estrogen has precursors. It has other hormones that affect it, and estrogen affects those other hormones. So you cannot deal with estrogen in isolation. So when we start talking about melatonin, serotonin, oxytocin, all these other hormones, your thyroid, your hypothalamus, and your pineal, all these work. So there's a medication that a lot of times they will give people with PCOS that will force their body to ovulate. That medication is not treating the ovaries. That medication is treating the hypothalamus and the pineal gland, because those are the master glands that regulate hormones that send information to your ovaries to tell them to release an egg. So you kind of see how everything is related. Everything, it has to do with each other. So he's like, okay, well, that's fine. Yeah, force my body to ovulate. That's exactly what I want. So then the follow-up question to that is, if you do ovulate, will that fertilized egg be able to implant safely and healthily in a healthy womb? Is the womb healthy? Is the body system healthy? You are the person that will be growing the child. You are the person that will be growing the child. So if your body feels like it's not healthy enough to sustain another life, it will not reproduce. That's just the basic common science. So the definition of fertility that I work from is this: I am a living being. I am so healthy and I am thriving in every level, spiritually, mentally, and physically. I am doing so well, my cup runneth over, that I am then able to produce another child. I'm able to reproduce another being, and I can sustain that being. I can create it, I can sustain it, I can birth it, and then I can nourish it for a year or two after I give birth. And a lot of times your body is like, no, I'm not healthy enough. Something is wrong. Something is off. And so you have to be detective and figure out, what could that be? What could that be? So the first step, I'm sorry that I can't give you like a pill to take or some magic, offering to make the yin and yang and you're going to get pregnant tomorrow. Holistic fertility doesn't work like that. So I'm sorry. I'll just go ahead and apologize to you. It's so many layers, and you really have to dig and find out, what is it about my lifestyle that is not allowing me to be healthy enough to reproduce? That is the question to ask yourself. What is it about my lifestyle that is allowing me not to be healthy enough to reproduce? That's the detective work that's at hand. So, the first step for the PCOS is get rid of the belly fat. And if you need help doing that, get a trainer, or some type of support system. Because the thing about it is, like, if you're relying on yourself to make some type of major change, and you've been trying to get pregnant for the past 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, 6 months, and you haven't been able to do, something has to change. Like, either you have to change, or you have to like get somebody to help you. You have to join some program, find another doctor. Something has to change. You cannot continue to do the exact same thing that you've been doing. Prayer is great, and I'm not going to discount prayer, but you can't just continue living exactly the way you are and not making any changes in your life and just pray and be like, oh, well, I didn't get pregnant this time, so I'll just continue to do the next thing, the same stuff I've been doing next month, and then hope for the best. Or saying, well, I'll just Google this and this lady worked. I don't know. You can totally get lost in the blogs. This worked for me, and I did this, and I stood on my head for 5 hours, and then I did this, and then I turned a flip, and then it's like you can really be overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that's online with all the different things that you need to do. The very basics that anybody can do. Like the information never, ever, 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 ever changes. Adequate water, sleep, exercise, green vegetables, eating well. I mean, that's pretty much almost always the answer for pretty much any problem that you can imagine. The herbs and the things to increase your luteal phase, things to nourish the ovums, things to balance your blood, different types of supplements that men can take to increase the it basically allows the sperm to swim faster and be more durable. You know, all of that is icing on the cake. All of that is icing on the cake. But the cake is your overall well-being. So that would be what I would tell the person with the PCOS. And then also, if you're staying up late at night, one night you go to sleep at 2 o'clock, the next night you go to sleep at 3, the next night you go to sleep at 12, then you stay up all night and binge. And then I would say pick a time to go to sleep every single night. Start bringing your lights down at a certain time so that your melatonin can kick in, because that's going to bring your cortisol levels down for the next day. Because cortisol is a stress hormone, and your body, and also adrenaline, your body thinks that it is a fight or flight situation. You're not going to reproduce because your body feels like it's in danger. So if you constantly have high levels of cortisol throughout your life, and you constantly have high levels of adrenaline and other stress hormones, your body is not going to feel comfortable to reproduce. You need oxytocin, which is the love hormone, to kick in. You need your melatonin. You need your sleep. Your body needs to feel like it's nourished and it's well taken care of. And then you're in a safe, healthy environment. And then your body clicks off and says, yes, I'm safe enough to have a baby. I'm safe enough to get pregnant and produce a child. I got another question from a woman who had a tubal reversal a few years ago and has not been trying for about 6 or 7 months, hasn't been able to have a positive pregnancy test, and 8 to 10 days post-ovulation, noticing bleeding and cramping, and unhappy with the obstetrician gynecologist response to them, been trying for 7 months. So let me just touch on the OB situation first. Obstetricians are generally trained to ignore most things that they consider benign. They will not proactively do anything until it's what's considered an emergency. So most obstetrician gynecologists will not want to do anything as it relates to your fertility until you've been trying for a year and you have not been successful. Right now, they don't see it as a problem. You see it as a problem because it's something that you're dealing with every month, every day. You have this longing to grow your family. But the OB, their protocol, as they've been trained in school, is not to worry about it until a year that you've been trying. So you kind of have to reconcile that, and you really have to advocate for yourself, and you really have to go into those interactions and get what it is that you need from the OB, from their offices, from that medical technology, because there's nothing special that they're going to tell you. They have about an hour to a day's worth of nutrition training. So there's not a lot of information that they can give you on specific nutrition tips and things that you can do in your lifestyle to make your body nourished. Because the thing about, you have all the eggs that you're going to ever have, but those eggs move to be matured, right? Before they are, they're immature, then they move to be matured before they are fertilized. So your body and the things that you have is what's going to nourish those eggs beforehand. And that's directly correlated with how you nourish yourself. So you kind of can see how everything is related to each other. So they just don't have it in them give you any guidance on it. The only thing that they can do is prescribe you medicine, to force you to ovulate or, things of that, or they can refer you to a fertility specialist, but that's a whole nother conversation about what they have. They can pump you up with hormones. They can put you on birth control and, or some, to try to regulate to get your period to start if they haven't. But beyond that, there's not a whole lot, and they really won't spend a lot of time to get your whole life story. The average obstetrician visit is between 5 minutes and 7.5 minutes by design. So and the normal gynecologist will book 4 people for one 30-minute time slot. So that's 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5 minutes. And that's everything that's with them getting to the door, looking at your chart real fast, seeing what it is that you need, going in there, doing the PAP, and hey, got any questions? All right, have a nice life. You don't have time to tell him, what time do you wake up? What are your stressors in life? What's on your mind right now? When did your period start? How was that? Between, from the time your period started until now, what has been your experience? Are they heavy? Are they long? Do you cramp? Or do you get anxious? Do you feel depressed? How is your sleeping environment? Tell me about that. Do you have lights in your room? Do you have any electronics in your room? What's underneath your bed? Tell me about your thread count on your sheets. Are you fulfilled in your relationship? Are you guys going out on dates? Like, do you feel close? Do you feel comfortable? When do you feel most stressed? They're not going to talk to you. They're just not going to, that's just not what they're trained to do. So you are going to be missing a lot of the little details that could be in your lifestyle that could be keeping you from getting pregnant. So I do understand your frustration with dealing with your obstetrician about this. My thing is this: I always tell my clients, you need a full panel workup. I want to know about all your major nutrients. I want to know about all your major nutrients, and they're the best place to get those panels. Checking your magnesium, your vitamin D, your iron. Lots of women are anemic, and that can be a huge issue. Checking your folic acid levels and things like that, because you need that folic acid in your body, because that's what the baby in the very first few days, the spinal system is going to be developed as well as the brain. And if you don't have that folic acid in your system, then your body could terminate that pregnancy, because your body feels like, this baby is not going to be viable. So it will not carry through with everything. So you want to make sure that you have that folic acid in your body. Well, the best way to know that is to get a full workup panel from your doctor, from your gynecologist. So I like to use them to get information and very strategic things like a pap smear, maybe just really specific things. But just knowing that you're not going to be able to get all of your wellness needs met from your obstetrician alone. If you feel like they're totally disrespectful, though, find somebody else. Find somebody else that's going to listen to you and that's going to work with you, because there are levels to it. Now, they may have a protocol to where they will not prescribe anything, or really not, quote unquote, really consider it an issue with you not being able to conceive until it's been until it's been a year. But you can specifically ask when you're screening these gynecologists, like, what fertility services do you offer that can be implemented right away? That's not you waiting for a year or waiting for some set period of time. Or you could even ask them, I've been trying for 7 months. If I become a patient of yours, what would you do right now to help me get pregnant? What services and support can you offer? And I would ask a few of them that. And that way you can just be super clear about what to expect, so your expectation levels can be matched up with what they're actually able to bring to the table. As far as this particular person that they've never gotten a positive pregnancy test, but they know that the egg's been fertilized, I tend to just trust the woman's intuition. If you feel like it's being fertilized, I'm not going to negate that. I'll let you, honor your intuition. You know your body better than anybody else. However, normally, once the egg is fertilized, your body will produce HCG, which is that human growth hormone. Your body will produce that. So those cells are rapidly developing really, 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 really fast. They're just doubling. All those cells rapidly developing. And so your body does have that HCG. So that's why when you do take a pregnancy test, that's what the pregnancy test is testing for. It's testing for the presence of that hormone. So if you feel like the egg is getting fertilized and you're not getting a positive pregnancy test, then I would say check your hormone levels. So that may be the baseline to see where are you now with your hormone levels, and where do you need to be as far as your hormone levels are concerned. Where are you now, and then where do you need to be? What are some things that you can do to help regulate your hormones? And this is not just dealing with the sex hormones, because all the hormones are, it's like, think about like a pool. Just think about like a pool, and a pot of stew. When you put everything in the pot, it's all mixed up together. So if you're making a soup and you add vinegar and you add oil and you add chicken broth and you mix it up, you can't be like, okay, well, I'm just going to go and get just the chicken broth out. It's already mixed up. I'm sorry, I'm not the best at analogies, but that's kind of how your hormones are. They're all mixed up. So they're all mixed in to make the recipe for you to get pregnant. So you can't just deal with estrogen and just deal with progesterone and just deal with oxytocin without dealing with dopamine and serotonin and melatonin and all of the other hormones. So they all mix together, because a lot of times when you find out somebody has a hormone problem in one area, they have hormone problem in other areas. So if they have issues with their thyroid, they also have issues with their period. You have issues with your period, you also have issues with your thyroid. You have issues with diabetes, which is your insulin. You may also have issues with PCOS. PCOS and diabetes go together like this. They almost always show up together. Women who have PCOS have a hard time regulating their glucose because all the hormones are messed up. So they're all imbalanced. So yes, you have a hard time regulating your glucose. You have a hard time with your body producing the appropriate amounts of insulin. And then you also have a problem with an abundance of testosterone in the system. Not enough estrogen, progesterone not kicking in when it needs to. Your body not getting the signal that, hey, I need to menstruate. Hey, I need to ovulate. All of it's off. All of it's out of whack. And so you're like, okay, well, it's out of whack. What pill do I take to just make everything better? There is no magical pill. I'm sorry. There's no magical pill. So, sorry. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, because I know many people want to continue doing everything the way they're doing it, and they want to be pregnant. I want to just stay the same. I don't want to make any changes. I don't want to make any differences. I don't want to do anything different. I don't want to take a chance. I don't want to invest anything. I don't want to commit any extra time. I don't want to change my life. And I'm not getting pregnant like this. But I want to be pregnant. But I don't want to change. So you have to choose one or the other. There is no magical pill. And me personally, what I believe is, the reason why I'm involved with this ministry and this is my life's work is because there are so many beautiful Black women who want to grow their families, and they do not have access to in vitro fertilization that costs between $10,000 to $20,000 for one cycle, depending on where you live in the country. And that's often not covered by insurance. They do not have access to that. So there's a long period of time that you have direct and complete control, and you have dominance and queendom over your own fertility system before you get backed up against the wall and have nothing to do besides in vitro. That becomes your only option, or surrogacy. And that's we're talking 100,000 plus for surrogacy. We're talking some moolah for surrogacy. So you don't want to put yourself in a situation where that's your only choice, surrogacy or in vitro or some other type of, insemination. All starts getting into the multiple thousands of dollars. There are things that you can do now, many of which don't cost anything to implement in your life to get yourself well so that you can reproduce. There are things that you can do now. So why not? So I will hang out on Instagram, but I am going to close out on Facebook. So if for my Instagram family, if you have questions, you'll be able to type them in. And I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Fertility Fridays with Freya. And be sure to join my visit my website, RootMama.org. You can email your fertility questions to info@rootmama.org or visit rootmama.org/contact and ask your questions. I have some articles on fibroids, on preconception health, on general wellness on the blog, rootmama.org/blog. So be sure to visit me there.